Day 16, working on the cure for the terminators. So I've tripled the amount of just raw content that I've thrown up on here. So that's been a lot of work, a lot of fun. And it's a video game timeline. Yeah, sure. That's what it is. Right. Video games, whatever. All right, so right now we're going through UFO, UAP, declass, and disclosure. And as that continues, the religious extremists are going to get a little more antsy because of the danger of that. We're getting this readout of this thing here, disease X, which is this. This was on the timeline waveform of the Cabal plan. And so that seems to be what's going on. We're going to continue to experience major national declass throughout 2024, especially the first half. And the second half will be the repercussions of it. Let's see. Looks like there's going to be a global space collaboration summit for the UN, and it's basically a United Nations Space Law Reform Task Force, as well as growing private sector influence. And so that means we'll get a much higher probability of an Earth Alliance Space Force to manifest. I'm also taking a look at Global AI Ethics Summit, and basically trying to map the development of the AI stuff, because that's what really matters for this timeline, because I'm trying to figure out how the evolution of the AI plays out, and I got a pretty good look at where that goes. I'm also trying to understand much better like what the white hats are doing and how that all applies, and it looks like what I think is going to start happening is that the white hats are going to question their oaths, and they're going to be asking, has Cabal leadership been lying to us? They don't even call it the Cabal, they don't really think of it that way because it's all compartmentalized. Because of all the tensions, this red team versus blue team, Republican, Democrat, whatever you want to call it, the fake teams and their elections gets extreme, and that's going to, a lot of things are going to kind of just accumulate into what is the Bell Riots, which occurs, that I expect to occur. The Bell Riots will really make it, it'll be very difficult once the market crash is controlled. This was also on the Cabal thing. All of the boxed ones that I do are definitely noted on Cabal events. And that's going to create civil chaos, which will then be united with false flags that are created by these folks. And that'll lead to this, and that will be used to try to quell this into the next phase. This will exacerbate into these, and that will cause even more civil unrest and basically these global civil crackdowns that will result in it as a manifestation of all of this chaos. Chaos through order, huh? On the plus side, we start getting things like the UN Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. That's nice. And geopolitical competition does escalate across nations. A couple of new technologies, and Russia gets a new spaceport. That's cool. And then all of these new AI things start happening. This is really interesting, where AI governance frameworks actually manifest, and we get an AI Governance Council. By the end of 2025, we get full-body cyborgs with the Neuralink technology finally established. Robot hands become at the level of human hands. The Tesla bot is released, and that allows us to do full-body robotics, and so full-body prosthetics, which is full-body cyborg. Human brain simulation, so we can do that type of simulation technology with the cyborg bodies. We got our first-gen version. Combat veterans are going to get their free cybernetic implants for good reasons, sure. And the Human Volunteer Cybernetic Program, globally, not just in the States. The rebels that manifest from all of this chaos over here eventually get together because of they basically have a cause. They're fighting for the truth, and this has to do with all of the truthers that have been working together, and they use the truth to anchor the people, and that's what causes the development of the Rebel Alliance, which is an asynchronous operation that can't really easily be destroyed. That's no doubt happening because there must be some white hats in the Cabal that are actually helping us for real. And I think what's going on is that the Cabal simply I think they're getting censored. I think they don't know what's going on because they sound like they don't know what's going on. Like, I wonder if that's actually the solution. They're the ones getting censored. We're getting censored too. It's censorship both ways, but they're staying in the lies and we're not. So even if they're listening to this, they kind of have these things mentally installed in their brain that just make it so they can't process the information and they automatically forget or something, or worse than that, they gaslight themselves. I guess it's just emotional reactions, I suppose. 3D versus 5D. Eventually we get the White Hat Rebellion, where half of the White Hats turncoat against the Cabal. There must be a manifestation point where that actually transpires, and that would basically give us what we need to actually have a real Earth Alliance join forces with the Rebel Alliance. As some put it, the changing of the hats begins. Space advancements continue during this entire phase, and so we get emerging space nations like the UAE, Brazil, South Korea, Nigeria. There's a couple others. Those are the key ones that I was able to pick up on. India and Russia advanced their space launch systems to reusable, and we get new advancements in robotics as they become common and a lot more useful for accelerating space programs. But this space debris mitigation treaty, I think that's a big deal. I guess the lunar base initiatives are also a big deal because we finally get an international and a NASA lunar bases, and they're not alone in this mission objective. China and some other forces are interested in lunar bases, so it looks like we're just going to do lunar stuff. In the center here, we basically experienced the major power shift during 2026 at the solar peak after Solar Max. And this will be the battle for the heart of humanity. The Earth Alliance is declared, the genetic revolution occurs, and the lie battles versus the truth. As the Rebel Alliance supports for the Underground Railroad, as a global economic collapse occurs, and the Earth Alliance fights the bad guys. And and the bad guys basically lose half of their white hats, and that basically breaks down their entire censorship, manipulation, lying structure. And so the corruption of the religions are exposed, and that unites humanity to save the world. The AI technology continues, and we get AI and legal systems, a symposium for that. AI-driven. How are all these still happening during? Well, I guess it's good that they're still having these talks. WW3 is just happening. But here's something that's interesting, where at this phase, while this crisis continues, we're going to get the Brotherhood will deploy their AI, the Cabal AI, a computer-assisted biological augmented life form, also known as the Beast. As the time continues, the elites and the minions splinter off because it becomes very apparent that the Cabal has lost control and the minions can now be set free. The wolves are now free, and that's not really that good. And these minions join the rebels, who were anarchists, and so these are both anarchists. They form a unified group of anarchists, which create these much worse riots than even the Bell riots over here. And so this basically manifests a scenario where we're going to have to experience tank police, as extreme militant responses are required due to the extreme bioterrorism that started all the way back here. 2025, the threat of bioterrorism is increasing, and it reaches a much more extreme point where these four types of things start to occur. Due to the splinter apart and the angry and pissy state of the Cabal, they attempt some of their final last cards. In this case, it would be the Great Solar Flash, which turns out is an artificially induced, enormous coronal mass ejection targeted at Earth. This targeting leads to an expanded deployment. Basically, we're going to get what's called ion storms, which are extreme ionospheric disturbances and breakdowns, which are a combination of issues, including the deployment of new ion cannon weapon satellites and the ramifications of the Great Solar Flash messing with our ionosphere. Finally, we get the AI for Global Security Council, and this is what's going to get our Skynet. The situation goes from bad to worse from 2027 to 2028. As the war gets worse and worse, the rebellion gets worse, and eventually that Security Council makes the judgment call because the Cabal AI, which was down here, the Beast, really kind of starts screwing stuff up, so they deploy Skynet to counter it. And that's exactly what Cabal wants. It takes advantage of Skynet, and that trickles down to a bunch of really bad stuff right until we get Terminators, unless we could figure out how to counter that. with a better solution.